backed up as far as you can see its bumpers.
Got a bird's eye view, and it certainly doesn't look good from up here.
The tank is full, the engine's humming. Those wide open roads are beckoning. So sit back and get ready for Motoring 89. Brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will. This week on Motoring 89.
It is indeed. It is dangerous. People do get hurt. Of course, it's not the going quick that hurts you when you fall off. It's the stopping quick.
Today's trucks are 95% plastic, where these, just they're lasting forever.
You're looking at the 1989 Lotus S3. It's a turbo, it's the SE model, and it's the first one of its kind to arrive in North America. It's a beauty, isn't it? And later on, we're going to check this car out and watch it perform. But first, we're going to get things going by joining Sandra Neal, who was in a truckin' mood this past week.
In an age where consumers who are looking to buy a truck opt for aerodynamics or good gas mileage, you're now going to meet a group of people who collect antique trucks. Some of these vehicles range from 1960 all the way back to 1917.
It's the first annual meet of the Central Canadian chapter of the American Truck Historical Society. We expected 50 vehicles to show up. 2 more just came in, and we're hoping that we do get the 50, which, for a first-time effort will be real good. Everybody has an idea on an antique. Some say 15 years is old is an antique. Some people say 50 years and older is an antique, but we say 25 years and older. We'll class it as an antique.
Well, this is my, what you might call daily driver for summertime. It goes away in the winter, of course, but it's a 1953 Chevy 5-window pickup truck. The truck originally came from Oklahoma. So it's a nice, clean, dry truck underneath. According to today's standards, this is a relatively small motor. Gave fantastic mileage, somewhere between 20 and 25 miles to a gallon. Good and strong, nice light vehicle, just enjoyable.
Max and White's are about the 2 oldest that you still see running.
You prefer the older models?
To look at, not to ride it. It used to take 16 miles an hour as top speed on the hard tires. And if you wanted to go from here to Toronto, it took you the whole day. With hard tires, you had a hard ride.
Most of the people have something to do with trucking at one time or another. A lot of old, retired people, and there are some young people that just like trucks. And cars have got so high priced, like a 57 Chevy convertible could be $50,000. Well, you could buy 10 trucks for that kind of money. So it's more economical for somebody that likes old vehicles. Trucks are, so far, quite a bit cheaper.
Collecting antique trucks may be more cost-efficient than collecting classic cars, but some of these models, ranging from Max to Rios, command high prices. Perhaps the most coveted vehicle at the show was a 1917 Vim truck. Sold for $800 and some in the early part of the century, it's now worth over $25,000.
Well, first off, most people think it's a Model T Ford when they first see it. Then they start looking a little bit and they'll see the name on it, see the name Vim, and then they say, what was that? What does that initial stand for? And it don't stand for anything other than Vim, that's it. A lot of people don't believe that it's that old without, being restored in some way, and it is, to the best of my knowledge, has never been restored anyway. It's all original.
How many miles per hour does a Vim do?
25. That's it.
Today's trucks are 95% plastic. If they get 10 years out of the life of the vehicle, it's finished. Where these, just as long as they don't get too much salt on them and rust, and they're lasting forever.
Next on Motoring 89, Off the Beaten Path.
There's a rough road ahead with no end in sight. Quaker State engines don't know when to quit. Quaker State is the only motor oil with QSX, quality engineered to exceed every single car maker's Canadian requirements for maximum engine protection. So pistons are protected from friction mile after mile. Valves are protected from wear year in, year out. That's why Quaker State engines run strong and run long. Quaker State engines don't know when to quit. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
With the popularity of the pickup truck growing every day, it seemed an opportune moment to put a 1989 Toyota 4x4 extra cab with a V6 under the hood to the test. Now, running a vehicle like this through the pylons proves absolutely nothing, so we're going to be testing this on-road and torturing it off-road. During the off-road portion of our testing, the Toyota handled itself very well. In four-wheel drive low, the truck climbed up some pretty steep banks. The best part though, with four-wheel drive traction, you can go just about anywhere you want, including rivers. Many of the design criteria for a pickup truck are predetermined because of its intended use. Toyota's latest generation truck, with its rounded lines, tall stance and plenty of glass, is a fairly attractive package. And with the 3-litre V6 engine under the hood, Toyota should find the truck in great demand. We put the engine to the test by running it uphill and down dale. At all times there was ample power and the available torque really impressed me. Both will come in really handy if you venture off-road or need to tow a trailer. With the right equipment, this truck can tow as much as 3,500 pounds. The transmission is a very civilized affair. During the test, its smooth positive shifts and progressive clutch seemed remarkably untruck-like. You must remember to lock the front hubs before venturing out, otherwise the extra cab does not offer shift-on-the-fly transition from 2 to 4-wheel drive. Our test truck's box was only 3 feet 9 between the wheel wells, and so you cannot utilize the floor for carrying standard sheets of gyprock. Once you have negotiated the high step up into the cab, you are greeted by a very well-appointed, well-finished passenger compartment. The seats are comfortable, the dash well laid out, and despite the mud and snow tyres, the interior noise level is very quiet, even at highway speeds. All this leads me very nicely to my pet peeve. With the style and panache adopted inside, I cannot understand why Toyota selected a rock-hard suspension system. They could have softened it up enough to be comfortable, yet retaining the firmness required for a pickup. Well, this very picturesque setting concludes our testing of Toyota's latest 4x4 extra cab. I like the extra storage space and I like the V6, but let's go to the scoreboard for a final rating. The 3-litre V6 engine has a plentiful supply of power and the available torque comes in nice and low down, both desirable qualities for a truck and an off-road vehicle. The very high centre of gravity compromises handling, but when you drive this truck in the manner it was designed, the extra cab proved to be very stable, even at highway speeds. The disc drum setup proved satisfactory during testing. The pedal is easy to modulate and there were no nasty surprises, even off-road. When you consider the large mud and snow tyres on our test truck, the interior noise level was well within acceptable limits. During testing, we averaged 11.2 litres per 100 kilometres or 25 miles per gallon. Not bad, but if you push the truck, your mileage will drop considerably. Having spent some time with this Toyota truck, I can understand why these vehicles are becoming increasingly popular. They are well appointed, comfortable, and most of all, versatile. Here's something you won't find in all cars. It's a ski sack. Open the trunk, put your skis in through, they come out through here and they keep your interior nice and clean. Good idea.
Coming up on Motoring 89, electronic analysis.
We're back on board the '89 Lotus S3 Turbo SE. An impressive name for an impressive car. We've got it down here now on the skid pad. This is where we watch cars perform, and we're going to watch this one perform right now, but not with yours truly behind the wheel. You may recognize this guy, our expert Graham Fletcher. So Graham, let's do it.
Once we get this thing located on the launch pad, we're going to see if it's as quick as it really feels. Boy, I'll tell you, the legacy that Chapman left is just unreal, and Lotus has got everything going for it right now. Oh my God! Holy smokes! Somebody just kicked my ass in rapid fashion. God almighty, this thing is fast. 4.7 seconds to reach 100 kilometers an hour. Boy, this thing is just hairy. I hope they give you free lessons because you'll need it. Okay, do some pylon work now. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. This car is absolutely amazing. I've sat in some fairly hairy cars, but this one with its speed is incredible. And the handling, boy oh boy, is it ever nice. Nice and flat, nice and firm. The steering is nice and heavy, so you get a real positive feel and feedback from everything that's going on. You know exactly what's happening at the tire surface. Very, very nice indeed. Incredible.
I'll go along with that. Incidentally, is there a computer on board this car?
Yes, there will be.
Well, standing by now is our resident mechanic, Bill Gardner. Bill's going to tell us that onboard computers are not exclusive to just exotic cars.
This week our subject is computerized engine controls. All domestic cars and light trucks have electronic fuel injection, and along with that an ECM or electronic control module. Most people refer to it as a computer, and it runs the engine. We're going to have a look at that system today and see how it monitors inputs and creates some outputs in order to run the engine at peak efficiency. The driver's connection with the computer is the orange check engine light on the dash. It comes on every morning to test when you first start the car. Now, if that light should reappear while you're driving, flash on momentarily, or come on and stay on, it's indicative of a problem in the system. You can bring the car into a mechanic. He can enter the diagnostic mode, which we've already done with that jumper tool in the diagnostic connector under the dash. The light will now show us a coded message that will indicate where the problem lies. This particular car is showing a code 12, which means we've entered the diagnostic mode, and a code 34, which on this vehicle would indicate a problem with the mass airflow sensor. Now out here under the hood, the computer is going to gather information from a number of different sensors. Air inlet temperature sensor, the mass airflow sensor, the throttle position sensor, the coolant temperature sensor, the oxygen sensor. It's going to see all these inputs and then determine how much fuel and when to inject it, what the timing should be, and it's going to run all the emission control devices to keep the engine running at peak efficiency. In order to properly diagnose and repair these cars today, we can't just dive in there and start turning wrenches. We've got to consult shop manuals. You're going to need a good set of manuals like this one and work your way through the problem. They're well laid out and they'll lead you to the problem. As you can see, this is an awful big manual, and this just covers 81 to 86, and each year there's more and more information to comprehend. We just can't commit it all to memory, so we're going to have to rely on this book as our Bible to repair this car. Till next week, I'm Bill Gardner for Motoring 89.
And now, behind the wheel with Charlie Goodman.
Threshold braking. No doubt about it, folks. The quickest way to stop a car in a straight line under most road conditions. We're going to show you how it's done. All right, away we go. Accelerating to 50 kilometers an hour. Wet asphalt. 50 kilometers an hour. Threshold brake. Squeeze the pedal. Squeeze it harder, harder, right to a stop. Try to keep the wheels rolling all the time. Anytime the wheel locks and starts to scrub, you're sliding, folks. You're going too far. All right, now, we will now use a small cone to mark this spot, and then we will proceed, and we will compare the distance in stopping between proper threshold and lock-up braking technique. The same 50 kilometers an hour, same asphalt, nice and wet and slippery. Entering the exercise, and stop! Locked up solid. Everything I can put into this stop is happening. Folks, I'm almost pushing the seat right off the track. You could hear the tire skidding. All that scrub meant that we were sliding totally out of control. Having discovered the difference now between threshold braking and lock-up braking on a smooth surface, let's do something interesting. Why don't we try the same experiment on this gravel-covered road? We're accelerating to 60 kilometers an hour. Just over the rise of this hill, we'll spot our cone. At that cone, that is the beginning of the braking distance. The first attempt will be with threshold braking. All right, now I've got to concentrate. 60 kilometers and threshold brake. Squeeze it to a nice stop. Beautiful. Now, we'll mark this spot with a cone, and then we'll go around and we'll make our attempt with the other lock-up braking technique. Now, continuing with our test, except this time with our lock-up braking technique. We are accelerating, we're at 60 kilometers an hour, holding steady, and we're within sight of our cone, getting ready, and now lock it up! How does this technique work? What is the difference? It is because of the debris that is built up under the wheel, creating so much additional friction. The result? An astounding 17 feet shorter using this technique. And you know what? It works that way every time.
Still ahead on Motoring 89, two-wheel wonders.
Only 8.9% of this commercial is worth watching. Nissan announces 8.9% financing on Pulsar and Stanza. And 8.9% plus no-cost option packages on Sentra, Micra, and Hardbody. See your participating Nissan dealer now. Cha cha cha.
There's a rough road ahead with no end in sight. Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
Quaker State is the only motor oil with QSX, quality engineered to exceed every single car maker's Canadian requirements for maximum engine protection. So pistons are protected from friction mile after mile. Valves are protected from wear year in, year out. That's why Quaker State engines run strong and run long.
Quaker State engines don't know when to quit.
The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Joining us now on Motoring 89 is Albert Marshall of Lotus, and he is driving the brand new 89 Lotus S3. It's the turbocharged model. Welcome to the program. First of all, tell me a little bit about this brand new car. I know it's very special for Lotus.
Yes, it's the fastest car Lotus ever built. It's probably the fastest car in North America right now.
Tell me a little bit about the engine. You might think it's a 12-cylinder the way it moves.
The engine is a 4-cylinder, 265 horsepower, capable to do 0 to 60 at 4.7. This is tremendous if you compare on a 12-cylinder. It don't even do that.
Now, I've been driving this car. One thing I notice about it, for an exotic big machine like this, it's easy to drive.
It's really, really easy to drive. It's not something like, it don't feel like an exotic machine and driving it. It's like a new regular car. Anybody can drive the car. You don't need to be a racing driver to drive the car.
What kind of money would a car like this sell for?
The car sold here in Canada for $121,000.
Now, cars, Ferrari, Lamborghinis are double the price. I get the feeling you'd put this car up against any of them.
Anytime.
All right, competition, which is what we all like. And speaking of competition, we're now going to join Steve Grant, who visited with some very powerful machines, but they're not on four wheels, they're on two.
Mosport is best known for auto racing, but this week the bikes are center stage, but not just any bikes. These are the Superbikes, and the event is the World Superbike Championships, the first of its kind here in Canada, and it gives our riders a chance to compete with the world's best.
Manasaka.
motorcycle racing, I think, is the common man's sport. Auto racing, which you follow a great deal, is fine, and I wouldn't knock it, but I like competitors. I follow the sport all the way around the world. I do Grand Prix, World Superbike Championships, and the competitors are the key things for me. Nice guys, down-to-earth people.
I've been actively involved with motorcycles for about 20 years. I started when I was really young, and I've been racing for about 10 years. I started off racing in the dirt tracking, and then I moved on to road racing 7 years ago, and I've never looked back. I love it.
I've been road racing since 1984. This is my 6th season into racing, and this particular event here is my first ever World Superbike Grand Prix event, which is production machinery modified for Superbike racing.
The World Superbike Grand Prix provided race fans at Mosport with a rare opportunity to see the world's best all on the track at the same time. 36 bikes took the green flag, including 12 Canadians.
These days, I think the competition here in Canada is getting a lot better, and it's from guys like myself and Ruben doing international competition. You know, we're doing it all the time and bringing the talent back here, and that's helping improve the local talent. So I think that we're doing very well against, the Europeans. I think when you take the world in general, there's about 3 or 4 riders from every country that are up there, and then that's about it, really.
Being competitive in this series means pushing your bike to speeds in excess of 150 miles an hour on the straightaways, and that's no easy feat on a tight track like Mosport that's a lot better designed for auto racing.
Mosport being one of the most technical tracks in Canada, it's got turn 2, which is absolutely blind, and when you come over that, you're getting light, and you feel both wheels just dancing underneath it. It's really exhilarating.
It's a good track. I mean, it has its limitations. The guardrail is too close to the racing track itself. It's aimed at car racing, auto racing, rather than bikes. The guardrail needs to be moved back, and there needs to be some resurfacing. But of course, you can't have things done like that without the revenue for them to be paid for.
Motorcycle racing is big news in Europe, where it's not uncommon for hundreds of thousands of fans to pack the tracks and cheer for their hometown heroes.
After the Second World War, the working man's transportation, this sounds like a political broadcast, but it's not, honestly. After the war, in the Second World War in Europe, a lot of people had motorbikes to ride on to get to work because cars were too expensive, wages were down and so forth. And motorcycling was a young man's sport. It was cheap and it was nice to ride. In those days, there were no helmet laws or anything. And that's produced a sort of foundation, a solid core of motorcycle enthusiasts.
You can see what the riders are doing, like they're sitting on top of the machine. You see their every movement, their every shift. And there's a lot more sliding. The front wheel comes up a lot more, and the speed is a lot greater. Acceleration out of corners is a lot greater, and the braking into corners is not as great as a car, but it's visibly. You see it a lot more visibly than cars because they're slowing down a lot more. Cars have 4 wheels, bikes have 2. So when a bike does a slide, it's real obvious and it's real crowd pleasing. But so I think the spectators that do come to this kind of show will come back. I think you got to have that certain natural born talent to enjoy speed and everything, but crazy, I'd leave that out because there's an awful lot of smart, intelligent people that do this sport. It's not the old Marlon Brando wild bunch anymore. So crazy's out.
It is dangerous. People do get hurt. Of course, it's not the going quick that hurts you when you fall off. It's the stopping quick, which is why we come to the Armco barriers at the side of the track. No problem to slide down the track with your leathers and helmet on at 130, 140, 150 miles an hour. It's when you stop suddenly, that's when the body protests a little.
I was coming down the straight into the chicane, and somebody blew up and left a line of oil right through the middle of the chicane, basically, and I came down in 140 mile an hour. The front wheel went through, the back wheel hit the oil, and the bike high-sided me right off the bike, and the bike landed on me and broke my arm, and then I went through some hay bales which broke 9 ribs, and I broke 2 bones in my foot too. So
luckily, no one was injured in the latest round of Superbike competition. The even better news was the sight of a Canadian on the winner's podium. Ruben McMurder took on the best and wound up in 2nd place.
Ruben McMurder!
to meet these twins one more time, babe.
Well, that's it for this week's edition of Motoring 89. Before we go, I want to thank Caliber Motors of Toronto and Albert Marshall for allowing us to take a look at this brand new, beautiful 89 Lotus. Now, you just might think that an exotic car like this, impractical, right? No trunk space? Well, let me tell you, you could put a good set of golf clubs in the back of this one. That's it for this week. We'll see you next week for more of Motoring 89.
If you have any questions or suggestions, drop us a line at Motoring 89, 379 Danforth Avenue, Toronto, Ontario. M4K 1P1. Motoring 89 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.